What's going on, everybody? This is Patrick from Obscure Reference here, and joining me today to talk X-Men, it's the Alex to my
Ooh.
Scott. It's Chris. Say hello.
Some people call me Havoc.
Some people,
Some people.
some say he
But
only
hi. But hi,
calls
it's
that.
Chris. Nice to be with you guys again.
Welcome back. He was with us for our trailer reactions, which you can also catch on our channel, youtube.com/Obscure Reference 23. I'm sure you're already there.
It's a good one.
It's okay. It's one of them. Uh, so Yeah, X Men '97 dropped its first two episodes today, and we thought we'd take a sit down and discuss them because, boy howdy, it's good to be back. Some might say
Things happened.
there were mutants that were there. Uh, for context, Chris, what's kind of your history with this show? I know we grew up together, but I've suddenly forgot. Much like the Summers family tends to forget that how many siblings they have. He's frozen.
Are you ever coming back? Oh,
Oh, is he back?
I'm back.
He's
Yeah.
back.
This is what I was talking about with those weird lag spikes.
You were just like for like 3 minutes.
Can you leave it like that?
Let's just listen. I'm just gonna edit this. I'm just gonna put that image over your video for the entire discussion.
Can you please? Actually, would be so funny.
That'd be kind of
Um,
funny.
or just a little cutaway, like he was like looking like this for 3 minutes. Anyway, sorry.
Anyways,
I Anyway, where was I? Where did I leave off at?
well, from my perspective, you didn't even start. So just start from the beginning. Oh no! Did he freeze again? Oh no!
So growing up, I watched. Wait, what part did I get up to? I'm
I don't
confused
know.
actually. Where's the script?
Let me pull it
Pull up
up
the
for you.
script.
Pulling up the
Whoever's
script.
in the booth, pull up the script.
Pull up the script.
Uh, okay. Sorry, it was my turn for chess.
No, that's cool.
So basically, I grew up watching this original show. To be honest, I couldn't even tell you when that was. I don't remember my childhood, too much trauma. But what I
Mm-hmm.
do remember
Much like the
is
summer.
watching a little bit of this original show. It was kind of on, later at night, and then I watched all of the iterations, um, like X-Men Evolution and stuff
Shut
like
up.
that, and of course watched all the like the X1 through 3 movies.
Shut
Basically,
up.
all of the TV and cinema content that X-Men has dropped since I was a wee lad.
Wee
Um,
little lad.
but with this show in particular, I actually don't have a lot of exposure to it. I have a rough understanding of plot lines and stuff like that, but that's kind of as far as it goes. So with
Mm-hmm.
with the reboot coming up, I actually got really excited about it because it's like it's a dash of my childhood combined with my childhood.
Wow, that's profound.
It's a lot of childhood.
Truly profound.
Yeah.
So, yeah, obviously, of course, we grew up together, so a lot of my experience with this original show lines up with what you experienced. Um, we didn't really watch much of it other than when it was on.
Yeah.
Like you said, it was mostly X Men Evolution, and then eventually Wolverine and the X Men and the movies and stuff.
Oh, I forgot about Wolverine and the
Um,
X-Men.
how could you forget? Bring it back. Um,
Childhood trauma.
yeah, but so yeah, but going into this, we watched the trailer, we reacted to it, and pretty much like that next week, I binge watched all of season one over a weekend. And long story short, a month later, I was visiting y'all over the weekend. I binge watched half of season four and then all of season five, like in the past couple of days leading up to this, because I really fell behind.
Holy cow,
It
that's a
was
lot.
a lot of X Men. Some of it was not great. Um, but I think it was all worth it because I'm going into this and I'm able to be like, oh, that actually feels very similar to what the original felt like.
I was
So,
actually about to jump in there.
oh yeah, go for
I
it.
don't mean to cut you off because, like I said, I only remember bits and pieces of watching this show.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as that introduction started, it all came flooding back. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
wait, this looks weirdly similar. And then as it kept going on, it's like, this is so similar, it's not even funny.
Yeah,
Wait a minute.
yeah. No, let's
Lo and
start
behold,
there.
the same thing. It was so cool.
Yeah, no, it was a blast from the past. I think I read somewhere that Kevin Feige, in order to greenlight this, he's like, there's got to be two things that we got to get for this. All right, you got to get some of the original voice cast back, and we got to
Mm-hmm.
get the theme song, because
Yeah.
there's no theme song quite like the X-Men's original animated show like theme song.
Yeah.
Really, like you can go to the Spider-Man one where you get Sting on the guitar, like whatever, who cares? Like this is the X-Men theme. The notes that they gave to the guy that composed this were just make it intense,
Mm-hmm.
and it's perfect. You know, it's perfect. And I want to give I do want to start there because it is the first thing you see. Actually, no, I'll go two steps before that. This is just
Ooh.
a Marvel animation nerd, whatever. They have the new imprint Marvel Animation. I think it's just Marvel Animation, but like they have with the Marvel Studios, they show you little images behind like the logo and stuff.
I saw some of that.
Yeah, I think it was
Pretty
the
cool.
second. I think both episodes they showed the original like Spider-Man cartoon, but the second one I think I know is the Silver Surfer cartoon, which is an extremely deep cut.
Really?
Yeah, so I might need to go back and like relook at that, but that's a really deep
Yeah.
cut. That lasted a season.
Mm-hmm.
But it's on Disney Plus, so you can go watch it. So yeah, shout out to that. But yeah, the theme song was a blast from the past, and I really like the updated visual style that they used for it.
Yeah.
And adding new members like Morph and Bishop, and then episode 2 adding Magneto into that was like, oh,
Yeah.
I could pick
Well,
apart the theme song.
spoilers. We're still in the first episode. Come on
All
now.
right, all right, all right. Updating. All right, I'll start here then. The enemy lineup that runs at them at the end when they like clash at the end. You know what I'm talking about? They added Lady Deathstrike and someone else. I'm blanking on. Oh, this is embarrassing for me. But I saw Lady Deathstrike. I'm like, oh, shout out to her. She's here. She's also
Nice.
in episode 2 briefly, but we'll get to that.
Yeah.
So yeah, wow.
I liked the addition of Morph and Bishop because for me, my exposure to Bishop was exclusively Days of Future Past.
Mm.
And I mean, he's almost like the cornerstone of that saga in a way. Not really, but sorta. He plays a pivotal part.
Yeah, this is to be clear the movie, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And maybe from somewhere else, I could have sworn maybe like Marvel Ultimate Alliance or something. I couldn't really tell you much outside of that. But so it was cool getting a little bit of him in that way, kind of the almost the day-to-day sort of sense. Because in my mind, it was always he was there for Days of Future Past, and that's it. Like you don't see him anywhere else. Like he's not relevant anywhere else. So it was kind of cool having him be sort of a central figure in this sort of rebuilding of well, really a classic. Morph, I don't even know where to start with that guy. What a strange character. I kind of love it though.
Yeah, Morph's an interesting one. He kind of, because yeah, they're literally there in the original series to be quote unquote killed off and then brought back by Mr. Sinister, like episode 1 and then season 2. They're back as a pawn of Sinister. So then every time you see Morph after that, they're going through like PTSD from Sentinels, which we didn't really see in that first episode, which I was like, all right, that's fine. Not a big deal. They kind of got over that when that episode happened. But you do see in the intro that they're dealing with the stress, and maybe there's more left for Morph to deal with as far as Sinister goes. So I'm glad that they're kind of teeing that up in the intro at least. As far as Bishop's concerned, that is, I love Bishop. He's one of my favorite time traveling mutants. Of the three that I can think of off the top of my head, he's probably my favorite.
Okay.
And in the original series, it is pretty much what you say. He shows up when his future is at risk. So it's only a handful of times. He doesn't show up. I mean, he shows up often enough to be like an important character, but he's not by any stretch of the imagination a part of the team. So it's weird for me coming into this because like where the show ends off, Morph has definitely joined the team by the end of the series, but Bishop's nowhere to be seen. So it's a little weird for me seeing Bishop just kind of show up, even though I know this is like a year after Xavier left them, so anything could have happened. But it was a little jarring being like, oh, Bishop's here, cool. Again, love him,
Yeah.
not complaining that he's there. You know, he's cool
And
stuff.
yeah, I thought it was really cool, kind of expanding on the rest of the team as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of the way they really stuck to all of kind of like their old quirks in the
Yeah.
original show,
Mm-hmm.
like speech patterns and the goofy metaphors from Rogue. I forgot about those. I love those. Um,
She had one the second
Rogue's
episode that was
yeah,
like a cat in a shop full of yarn. It's very close, I think, intentionally close to the that she uses like one of the first episodes. Like you're like a long-tailed cat in a rocking chair store or something like that.
yeah.
It's perfect.
It's out there, and then of
Mm-hmm.
course, I'm a simp for Rogue, but my boy
Mm-hmm.
Gambit deciding to cook instead of joining the fight, I was like, oh yeah, I remember why I loved this guy.
Yeah. Oh, Gambit's the best. He had a. I'll get into that later, but yeah, I do want to shout that out because you're right. A lot of their mannerisms are the same, and a lot of that is due to not every voice actor has returned to voice their character, but I will say I think it's Rogue, Beast, Storm, and Wolverine that are the same voice actors, and everyone else is different.
hmm
So when you hear Storm being like "Wind, push them down" or something like that, like that's her, and same with Wolverine
Yeah,
being like Bub, and
yeah,
Beast quoting Alfred Tennyson or something like that. Like
yeah.
it's they sound slightly different because time, but it is
hmm
them, and it feels true to the source material, if you will.
Yeah, and I'd like to think I'm kind of in the majority, and that I'm sure a lot of people who are going to be checking out this show, especially if it's an older crowd, are going to
Hmm.
kind of have my reaction to where like they didn't necessarily brush up on the series like you did leading up to this.
Hmm.
But for me, it was like riding a bike almost. Like you start hearing them talk, and it's just like, oh, yep, that's exactly how it was. Like I haven't watched the original content in 15 years, maybe. It's
Hmm.
been that long, but they start talking, and instantly it's locked back in. Like, oh, yep, par for the course.
Yeah. I,
Really liked that. Really liked that.
yeah, they try and do a good job of leading you into it. They had a previously on like recap video they had on their YouTube, which goes over like the 5 episodes you should watch. That'll probably best prepare you for what's going to happen this season. But even if you don't follow that, I think episode 1 does a great job of onboarding you with
hmm
everything.
Yeah.
And reintroduces you to every core team member. It tells you, oh yeah, Wolverine, when we did this together, like there's a lot of that, that just
hmm
mentioning stuff. And even in episode 2, like Jean mentions when she pulls her Marvel Girl outfit out of wherever it was that they fought on the blue side of the moon, and that's during
Yeah.
the Dark Phoenix saga. Um,
hmm
so there's a lot of like, this is still how it happened, but we're going to explain it to you. Like you haven't watched the show in 20 years because for a lot of people
Yeah.
they haven't.
hmm
So I do. It doesn't feel like it's dragging the pacing down ever, either. I don't think.
I mean, it kind of keeps with that almost slightly uneven, slightly blocky communication style.
Mm,
I don't know if that's intentional. Like I caught myself thinking multiple times, like I feel like they could have made some of these conversations sound more natural,
yeah,
but it's more true to source content when they kind of kept it with that sort of blocky, like really pulling lines out of a comic book. It seemed like.
yeah. I mean, yeah. No, you're not wrong. There is a lot of that in comics for sure. And even I was even watching some of the last few episodes of the original series. There's a episode where they're trying to pull Apocalypse from the astral plane, and they're trying to grab Jubilee, and one of the Morlocks is there, but he's transformed, and it's Caliban. And Jubilee's like Caliban. And it's like, well, if you don't read the comics, you don't know who Caliban is or why he's here. I didn't even know why he
Yeah,
was there. So like,
I don't even know who that is.
he's a Morlock. If you see in Logan, he's in Logan. But not like he shows up in that episode. It's a bit anyway. I'm getting lost in the weeds here. My point being is they don't really explain a lot of things to you in that show, just because they have to keep it like a brief 20-minute. This is for like kids, whereas this new revival feels more aimed towards not that it's not for kids, but there's a little bit of blood. Wolverine says crap, and they say the word kill instead of destroyed. So, oh, you're frozen again. Hmm. Oh, he's good on that. It was quick. It was quick. I like that.
Dude,
But
so ridiculous.
yeah, it is odd. But
Um,
yeah,
are you gonna jump back in, or I don't know how you're gonna cut around that if you're going to. Um,
I'll keep that one in. Why not?
okay, that's fine. Okay. I'm gonna jump a little bit from the characters
Mm.
and then dive a little bit into the action sequences
Oh
here
yes.
because I have a little bone to pick.
Uh-oh.
Just a little one, just a little tiny one. Um, so being the current year,
Mm.
we are awfully spoiled with great animation that also has a high integrity of consistent quality frame rates.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
And I have a bone to pick because some of the action scenes, like all the action scenes are great, like exactly how it was, exactly how it should be. However, some frames were given like 60 frames, while others were left at 30.
Hmm.
And I felt like the distribution of that, there wasn't necessarily a lot of logic to it, which confused me. I'd have to, watch them again and analyze it more closely. But just on the initial watch through, it was like some of the moves were like, okay, they could have done that at a higher frame rate, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like I mean, you had Cyclops's, his big reveal,
Mm-hmm.
which was really cool, by the way. That was
Yeah.
so awesome. I watched that, I was like, was Cyclops always that cool? I don't know.
The answer is
Um,
yes.
but
Actually,
and then like
I
so
know.
they like the integrity of that was really solid. And then you had some scenes where like other people were using their mutant gifts and they just like made it choppy as all get out. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, huh? Like where's the emphasis trying to be drawn here? It was a little confusing and I got a little lost in that.
Yeah, I do agree that wasn't super consistent, but I will also say that this is a step up from the original, just
Oh,
because
100%.
like you watch the early seasons of that especially, like it's very choppy. Like they're like moving like that sometimes. It's
Mhm.
kind of jarring, but I gotta agree. Like the way they're able to animate some of these fights, the way they're able to have these characters now that we've had more experience with them in the last 20 years, like we know how these characters move and fight and how to make that look cool, like with Cyclops pushing himself back with his concussive blast because it's concussive,
Yeah.
it's not a heat ray, and he's just going like and he's like ice skating with his beam. It's like it doesn't get much cooler than that. So yeah, that I will say that is an upgrade for Cyclops. Like he was already pretty cool,
Yeah.
but like that was like he's up there for me. And then his superhero landing at later on in the episode where he's like,
Yeah.
all right, I could go on and on about that.
That was awesome.
So yeah, I will agree on the animation for sure. There was I don't know if I have anything else on animation wise. I think the art style in general feels really true to the
Yeah.
original show.
Mhm.
We've given some of the characters a costume upgrade, like Storm's hair is different. Bishop's hair is different. I said that, and then I just kind of only ran into two examples. I mean, Magneto's costume is different, but I think that's because of the source material they're adapting.
Mhm.
But yeah, and Morph looks different to fit their, who Morph is now at this point, which I appreciate. Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, do we want to talk about what happened?
Nah, actually I thought we would just leave that part out.
Ooh. Ooh. Well, if you allow me, I want to talk about episode
Okay.
one first
Okay. That's
because,
typically how this goes, but yeah.
well, I feel like it's very standard run of the mill Sentinel stuff. Even if we've dealt with
Mhm.
Master Mold by this point like two or three times, and then Trask and Gyrick three different times as well. So
Mhm.
it doesn't fit necessarily to where the show left off because by that point they were done and dusted pretty much.
Mhm.
Um, but they're back and they're like, oh, that's fine. It's here to reintroduce the X Men and start introducing some
Yeah.
key plot points, which is fine. Um, but I like how they used Roberto da Costa as our new like entry point for this, where like kind of like how Jubilee was in the original show.
Yeah.
We don't really get to see him do anything. I suspect he might come back, but we'll see. I truly don't know with
Mhm.
this show. Um, but it was cool seeing him do that and then having that conversation with Jubilee at the top of the school much
Yeah.
like where she had that same a similar conversation with Storm in the original series. Um, so I'm just happy to see Roberto Love. He's one of my favorite of the New Mutants, and we've already seen some in the original show. So I'm hoping maybe we get them and we get a New Mutants team up. We'll see. We'll see. That's pie in the sky, but
Eye in the sky.
pie in the sky. I don't know if they're gonna do New Mutants. I mean, who knows?
No, I just have. I'm not sure I've ever heard that phrase before in my life,
You know, maybe read a book.
dude. That's not fair. You know I don't know how to read.
Sorry, champ. Uh, yeah, but I mean, was there anything else? Episode one? I mean, not really. Was that
That was
Sentinels?
kind of. I think that was just like the baby steps in, you know.
It is, and I think it does a really good job of like leading you in to be like, hey, this is the X Men you remember. Here's a couple of new characters. Here's some plot
Hmm.
points that are gonna be threads for the next few episodes at least. Um, and I really dug it. But
Yeah,
episode two, man. Whew.
that's when things happened.
Things happened. Do you have any leading thoughts on this?
I am unfamiliar with the source material for this one. Like typically, you see a lot of the same overarching things. Like you see, Dark Phoenix and Genosha, the forming Genosha and stuff like that. Um, but this one, I got nothing. I have no idea what's going to happen. Um, but I am 100% hooked on Magneto's character progression. I
Mm,
think
mm-hmm.
that is the coolest thing ever. And there was some surprisingly like emotionally touching moments with him. Like
Oh
with the
yeah.
helmet. When he was talking about the helmet, I was like, "Oh, I never thought about it like that before." That's both really cool and really sad, heartwarming at the same time. It was
Mm-hmm.
I really liked that. And the whole Rogue interaction, especially at the end of the episode, I was trying to think about all I know about electromagnetism, and I was like, well, I got nothing. I don't know how this is working, but I'm sure they're gonna explain it at some point, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, Magneto. Ugh, God, I love Magneto. He's one of my favorite quote unquote villains of all of Marvel, honestly. But this is probably in the comics at least. I'm not super familiar. This is like in the middle of Claremont's run, right? As the New Mutants is starting up, I think. So I'm a little less familiar with this part, but some of the stuff they're touching on happens towards the end of Claremont's run, and I'm a lot
Hmm.
more familiar with that. And I'll touch on that in a second. But
Okay.
um, Magneto kind of taking a turn and leading the X Men is one of my favorite turns from the Claremont era. He is like always like towards the end of the original series. He's always been kind of like he started leaning more towards the anti-hero rather than just a pure villain maniac.
Yeah.
And I think episode two really put Magneto through his paces and making sure that like oh he's being tested for sure, he's being put on trial. You know that's
Yeah.
literally the storyline they're adapting, Magneto's trial or whatever, the trial of Magneto. He
Hmm.
has the same outfit from that comic and everything, so I really dug that. Um, and he has a really good like speech, especially like after they depower Storm and he just takes the UN members and the Executioner, who is not a character I'm really familiar with, but I've read him in like current stuff.
Okay.
So that was a new one for me, honestly. But um, Storm being depowered, not so new, but he pulls them up into
Okay.
space and he has a line. I'm trying to blank it on. He's like, I'm trying to prove that I'm better. Don't give me a reason to let you down, or something like that. Which is like
Yeah.
a little corny, but I was like, man, this is
I
just
mean, it's
it's
a
Magneto.
little corny, but like it's kind of the best way I think he could have gone about phrasing that.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like it's all self-restraint for him at that point in time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. So I really dig. I've always dug this version of Magneto. I think there's a little bit
Hmm.
of him in the stuff I'm reading right now on Krakoa, and he's like more of a good guy than a bad guy, and I just like that side of him more than just
Yeah.
pure evil. Um, let's see, but yeah, the Rogue and Magneto thing that's new for me. I know that's not new for if you've been reading the X Men comics, forever, but I know I've not read any of that stuff, so I really this is a blind spot for me.
Hmm.
So I honestly don't know how that's gonna play out, truly. But I just like juicy drama, and I think seeing Gambit drop his card like that at the end was heartbreaking. And it's like, ugh, but I
Yeah.
love it. I love it.
Hmm. Yeah, it's I'm actually gonna pivot from that
Yeah,
because
go for it.
I wanna talk about the brief moments where we get to see Morph in action,
Morph. Oh yeah, actually, can we?
where we get to see Psylocke and Lady Deathstrike
And Colossus.
and Colossus. And I mean Colossus, well, I mean, like you said, he has like a spotted history in terms of, being a minion of Sinister.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I thought it was interesting that those were the people, that he chose to mimic. I don't know if that was just for the sake of, like an homage to his past, or if that has to do like with like a personal character arc that might be coming for him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll be curious. And there's a in the episode where he originally returns to the team. They have a moment towards the end where they start fighting Master Mold and stuff, and transforms into a bunch of characters. And like in my head, it's like it's cool seeing Morph turn into Omega Red, but when did Morph ever fight Omega Red? How would they know
Hmm.
to transform into him? And I had a little bit of that with seeing Psylocke and Lady Deathstrike and Colossus, because like
Yeah.
those characters, Psylocke especially, don't show up much in the original series. So uh,
Hmm.
that being said, I love seeing them. Don't get me wrong. I
Yeah.
will take whatever I can get. Um,
Exactly.
so that was really cool. I also really liked that bit at the end of the episode. It was kind of briefed over just because someone else, I forget who, I think it was like Cyclops or Jean or Storm talking over them.
Yeah.
Um, but it's Wolverine sitting in a tree, and Morph shows up with a bunch of like beer and like turns into Sabretooth, and they start fighting, which is
Yeah.
like perfect. That's their relationship in a nutshell. They like, Wolverine has a lot of walls up, but he loves Morph, and they're like best buddies. It's so heartwarming.
Yeah. And you kind of, in the first episode too, you see a lot of that, like that playful side to him,
Mm-hmm.
where, he starts talking to Scott as Professor X, standing up and
Yep.
walking around. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
dude, I understand it's been a year, but like,
Yeah.
arguably a little insensitive towards him.
Yeah, especially the
And
Scott.
they, and none of them really batted an eye towards it, which I
Yes.
thought was kind of funny.
Then Scott's just like exasperated. He's like, dude, come on.
Yeah.
But like that's just
Yeah.
more from the original series. That's how Morph's always been. He's always been
Hmm.
transforming into people at the most inopportune moments for a laugh, and it's great. He had
Hmm.
that they had that laugh at the beginning of the first episode. I'm like, yeah, that's Morph. That's Morph. It was perfect. Also, I meant to shout this out. Speaking of, while we were on the topic of like cameos and references and stuff, when Jubilee's with Sunspot in the Danger Room, I mean Roberto, in the Danger Room.
Spoilers, man. Come on now.
Spoilers. It's not like he said he uses the solar rays. Anyway,
I didn't know what he was talking about.
he didn't see. Okay, it's fine. It's not a huge spoiler. Um,
He.
she mentions like, "Oh, what's your power? Do you shoot gold balls out or something? That would be weird. What if I told you there's a
Uh-oh.
mutant that can do that?"
That's honestly not surprising, but like, what?
His name is Gold Balls, and I don't remember when he shows up, but I know
It's
when.
a little on the nose.
Well, he changes it to egg later because on during the Krakoan era, he can like build like eggs that serve as like cocoons that they can use to revive people from the dead. So
Oh, interesting.
he's like actually kind of important in the Krakoan era. I don't know about
Okay.
before that. That's my only touchstone for him. But I was like, I know what they're talking about. Anyway,
That's funny.
um, anyway, I don't. We were talking about Morph. I want to. What about Gene and actually we'll save Gene and Cyclops for the end.
Okay.
Well, how are we feeling about Storm? How are we feeling about Storm?
Um, I feel like story-wise, it almost makes sense. I feel like you gotta nerf the team a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
especially with Magneto jumping on. You have people who literally control like two fundamental aspects of like nature and physics as we know
Reality,
it.
yeah.
So it's like, you know, balanced team is doing its job,
Right,
but
right.
but I mean, the way that it was, I guess, played off, was intense
Mm.
with the note and everything, and the fact that too that was referenced in the note that to Jean being like, you've had to say bye multiple times, like, so you know how hard it is.
Yeah.
Um, that struck a couple chords with me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, that's I I don't really know where it goes from there. Like, I don't know how that gun worked. Like, he explained it, but like, is it really permanent? I'm gonna guess no. I'm just gonna toss that one out there. Probably not permanent, but I see a smile.
This is
He knows something.
I'm not gonna say anything. Smile. Um,
Okay.
no, this is a turn that happens in the middle of Claremont's run. This is like right before the events that happen, like the big X-Men
Okay.
events. I'm trying not to name them because I have a feeling we're gonna be building up to them.
Okay.
But it's actually one of Forge's inventions in the comics that depowers Storm.
Okay.
And it's through that, in the comics at least. I think it'll be a little different here because I don't know how important Forge will be. Because last we knew, he was with X Factor, in the show at least, but that could be different. But it's kind of how eventually she'll seek him out, and they'll have a bonding moment. And maybe she gets her powers back that way. Maybe she doesn't. So this, I'm familiar with Storm losing her powers, but not in the way
Okay.
that it happens here.
Okay.
I know there are a couple of episodes named after pretty well-known comics issues that have to do solely with Storm. I'm not going to say what the names are, and I'm not gonna even remember what episodes they are, but they're happening. So in my
Like,
head,
have they released the episode list? Like the
yes,
titles and all that? Okay.
yes, and
Okay. So what you're getting at is that we're going to be seeing more of her.
yeah, we're not done with Storm. I don't think.
Okay.
Personally, they could go any
I
direction with it, but
I kind of thought so, but I wasn't certain.
yeah, no. Again, this is different. The Executioner character is new for me. But as soon as they pulled out that gun, I saw him tinkering on it with the collar. I'm like, oh, so this is gonna like take away powers. They're going after Magneto. And as soon as Cyclops said, "Storm, you stay with Magneto," I'm like, oh, they're doing it. Okay,
Oh.
okay. And there are a couple of threads here, that I'll briefly touch on, I'm sure, as we get to it. But before we do that, I do want to shout out how they're nailing the Storm and Jean's dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
Like towards the middle of the episode 2, you see Jean, kind of privately confiding with Storm about how she's not sure she wants her baby to be a mutant.
Yeah.
And Storm straight up calls, I forget what Storm's direct response to her, but in that she calls her a sister, and it's like, yeah, y'all didn't really nail that in the original show, but you're nailing it here. So then when we get that last scene where Storm leaves a note, I'm like actually starting to tear up. I'm like,
Yeah.
it was really touching and really good, and I think they did a good job
Mm-hmm.
with that. I think. Yeah. Speaking of, actually, is there anything more I want to? No, not really with Storm. I think
I don't
we
know. I
covered
kind of want to
that.
dig into it.
With what? You tell me, boss.
Scott and Jean.
All right, let's do it. I saved them for last. What are we thinking?
Well, we've got the one spicy love triangle going on, so I'm led to believe that there might be some bumpy rocks in the road, but I think for the most part, Scott and Jean are going to be good.
Hmm.
I think they're going to be somewhat well behaved. Um, we'll see. I don't know. I mean, it's clear they still did a very good job of showing that there's still parts of Jean that care for Wolverine. We saw
Mhm.
that in the first episode.
Mhm.
And so they kind of made it a little apparent that there's still some of that going on, but and then there's some of that lack of communication between Scott and Jean in the second episode when there's like, oh, Scott went downtown to maintain the peace at the trial, and she's like, oh, well, he didn't tell me that. And it's like,
Mhm.
oh, maybe,
Yeah,
but I'm thinking maybe baby
baby.
is gonna keep them good and well behaved. I don't know though.
Yeah, no, that baby really threw a wrench in things for me. I'm gonna be honest. I
Why's
had
that?
I had an idea of where things were going just based on how they happen in the comics, and a lot of because like the baby territory is like I'm fairly well versed on that. Not super extremely well versed, but
Okay.
um, and I don't want to get too much into it because
No.
that second quote unquote version of Jean shows up at the end, and that is going to get all sorts of crazy. I'm sure. I think I know what
Hmm.
they're alluding to with that, and there's a moment where Jean's trying to get into Gyric's mind in episode one, and she
Yeah.
sees a bunch of graveyards, and then Master Mode comes up, but he's kind of like a monster. I'm like, are they actually doing what I think they're doing? And
I don't know what you think they're doing,
I'm not
but
gonna say what I think they're doing, but maybe get no. That's I'm not gonna say anything. But
just don't. Just
um,
don't.
then the this end of the second episode more or less confirmed. I mean, I've been privy to some information of like some of the toys and merch they're releasing, so it's like I had an idea they're going in a certain direction.
Okay.
But the end of episode two is kind of sealed that for me. So I'll be very curious to see how they play with it
I
because how it's
I don't
unfolding
know.
right now is very different.
I don't know if I'm dumb, but I don't know what you're talking about.
It is like the end of Claremont's era. If you know some of the big crossover events that happen at the end, that's kind of what I'm referring to.
Okay. All right.
So
So yeah. So I just wouldn't know.
probably not.
Probably not. Okay. Um, I want to pivot and talk about Baby a little bit. I know
Yeah,
you
talk about
can't really
baby.
talk about it at
Baby.
all. I just thought there was a very interesting shot where Baby was in cradle
Mm-hmm.
and it was looking up at Scott, and you see the mobile up over him,
Mm-hmm.
and from that angle, it really looked like the mobile was floating. Like you couldn't see the
Mm.
strings holding the things up.
Okay.
And for a split second there, I was like, no, Baby's got powers. And then it cut to Scott's angle, and it was like, okay, no, no, no. Normal Baby as of right now.
Yeah, I mean, typically mutant abilities don't manifest till like you're a teenager, so that'd be kind of crazy.
Well, yeah, but
If
yeah,
Baby
a
Summers
boy
had
can
that.
dream.
A boy can dream, yeah.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't be super crazy for thinking a Summers child has telekinetic abilities,
Yeah.
just based on their parents, really. But
Hmm.
I was very curious because no, I'm not even gonna get into that. I was just very curious. They actually straight up named him Nathan. I'm like, that's is that what they named him in the comics? I don't remember, but um, very
Is it?
curious. Was it?
Did they? Is that what they named it in the comics? Nathan?
Well, it was that or Christopher, and then it later got changed to Nathan. I honestly, it gets so muddied up.
Yep.
It
Makes
gets
sense.
crazy.
Fair enough.
Um, but baby being born, second gene showing up. I'm like, yeah, I think we might be building up to something here. But I was very delighted to see that. And then they,
Oh,
well,
I just had a senior moment. I know exactly what part you're talking about now. I just somehow conveniently forgot that whole bit at the end with second Gene showing up.
oh, I was like, how do
I
you
I
forget that?
I watched it like an hour ago and I somehow already forgot that.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
I
Um,
did think it was interesting though because again, I don't know what the heck is going on with all that, but I thought it was interesting that she showed up and said, "I need the X-Men."
yeah.
And of all the ways to phrase it, was that really the way? Like, it almost expresses like a lack of familiarity, which I thought was very interesting.
Which, if that is who I think it is, would make sense. Maybe.
Okay.
But again, I won't get into it. Um, I will say too, we kind of briefly glanced over. I mean, are we done with Scott and Jean? I don't
Yeah,
know how
yeah, I
much
don't
more I
I don't
want to
really
touch
have
on.
much else to add.
Okay, because I want to bring up real briefly um, the Morlocks. We saw the Friends of Humanity are now using Sentinel tech to like have
Yes.
Mega Man blasters. Um,
Love that.
and they were actually in the tunnels, and it was kind of like, really, are we really going to attack the Morlocks in the tunnels? That seems like a dumb move, but then it kind of paid off. They had Callisto and Leech on the ropes there until Magneto showed up. But I thought it was really curious that they're taking them all to Genosha, which,
Mm-hmm.
if you're unfamiliar, I won't get into comics territory stuff, um, but in the show, and like season one even, they had those collars that would depower mutants, and they would have them work
Mm-hmm.
as slaves. Um, so sending him there, obviously, I mean, I think towards the end of the original show, that was kind of like became a mutant haven. for
Yeah.
youths to go and hang out at, which in other iterations that's usually what it's seen as.
Hmm.
But going off of some, this is an event in the comics I've only heard of. I've not actually read, but I just know that I don't know, stuff goes down at Genosha. So I'm curious to see what they're building up to with that specifically, because I don't think
Yeah.
we're done with that. So yeah, shout out to the Morlocks. Leech sounded the exact same. I was very surprised by that.
Love that.
Don't kill Leech. Yeah. Any closing thoughts?
Um, I'm just I'm really hooked on where it's gonna go. I've kind of been in a dry spell in terms of like TV shows and things to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so when you texted me earlier today and you're like, "Hey, you want to do this review?" I was like, "Yeah, okay, yeah, I'll watch the show." I watched the 2 episodes and I was like, "Okay, yeah, I could."
Mm-hmm.
It's probably for the better that they're doing it piecemeal because I most definitely would have not done this review and just watched the entire however much they released tonight.
Yeah.
I definitely would have done
Gosh.
that.
No, I got hooked. If I didn't watch episode 1 right before work, I would have watched episode 2 then too. So
Hmm.
I get that. It feels like as much as I love the original X-Men series, it doesn't nail everything X-Men goes for, and I think this nails what the older series didn't.
Yeah.
It might be one of my favorite depictions of the X-Men that we've gotten on screen in a very long time.
Bring back Shadowcat.
Bring back. She wasn't in the original series. I was very
No, I'm thinking X-Men
surprised and
or
disappointed.
Evolution.
Yeah, or Evolution, Origin.
X-Men Evolutions.
No, she's great in that. She's great in that.
Yeah.
She's one of my favorite mutants. Period. Point blank. Period. Um, yeah. No, I'm right there with you. I'm really digging the show and how much it's staying true to the original, especially with voice actors, opening, ending sequences, just perfect.
Jubilee's mutant animations.
Dude, actually, the way they showed her abilities was actually really cool.
It was cool because it was different.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but going back to the frame rate thing, while she was dancing
Yes.
at the club, that was a little
Yes.
derpy.
That stood out to me as well.
That,
So,
yep,
yeah. Yep.
yep. I'm not gonna talk about that more. It might get me riled up.
Yeah. We'll move past it. So, yeah, if you're made it this far into the video, thumbs up to you. Obviously, we both
Congrats.
really like it, so you should go check it out too. You don't necessarily need to watch the old show to be up to snuff with everything here, though I might recommend it. They might pull some stuff out of their back pocket and be like, "It's Sinister. Remember when
If
he
you
did that?"
if you have the time, it's probably worth it.
Yeah,
Probably.
it really is an okay show, but this show's great. So there.
Yep. Agreed.
All right. Well, with that, this has been an obscure reference review of the first two episodes. I didn't like that. The first
Cut
two
that,
episodes.
cut that.
Cut that.
Whoever's in the booth, get that off.
Jeremy, get this out. Um,
Can you say that?
yeah, Jeremy.
Okay.
What's wrong with saying Jeremy?
I don't know. Jeremy is he a cool dude?
I don't. I made Jeremy up. I'm sorry. The look of betrayal. So anyway, this has been a review.
I don't want to be here anymore.
Let me outro so that we can leave.
Okay.
So this has been a review of the first two episodes of X-Men 97. And this is me, Pat. This is Chris, special guest Chris.
Point. He's below me in my perspective. He's down
see,
there.
I did this to like signal you to my right here. Never mind. It's not worth getting into that.
Okay.
Point is, angles are weird when you're on a webcam. If you like
How
what
many
we
times
do
can I
here,
distract from the outro?
oh, dude, it's so easy with me. You don't even have to try. If you like what we do here, subscribe, leave a like on the video. Maybe follow us on our socials. Links should be in the description so you never miss a stream. We stream every Monday and Thursday. And maybe some bonus streams here on the side, here and there. You can also get updates on when we post new videos like this one. Yeah, so in the comments below, I said subscribe, hit that bell. But you gotta leave a comment too. That's just the rules. What was your favorite part about this premiere? Who's your favorite X-Men member? And what storyline are you hoping they adapt here? Leave that all in the comments below. And until the next one, I'm sure we'll be back talking about more X-Men 97 in the future.
I hope so.
So stay tuned for that. We'll be back with more streams and trailer reactions and movie reviews. So until then, thank you for watching. I love you, I think.